setting new standards in podcast excellence. You have joined the WBT, fully focused on business and taxes. Here is your host, Michael Lodge.
Well, it's that season, isn't it? It's the Christmas season now. We just finished our Thanksgiving, which was great. We all got a little fatter. Went from our lips and down to our thighs, and now we have to suffer. But we won't do it until after January 1st, right? Because now we've got the Christmas season, and that means a lot more food and a lot more drink. I want to remind you today that today, November 25th, is Small Business Saturday. So I want you to go out and really support your small businesses. If you're looking for gifts, if you're looking for things for around the house, for the holidays, go to your small business, okay? They are the lifeblood of this nation, so we really need to support them. November 25th always comes around every single year on Small Business Saturday, but we really should support our small businesses throughout the year, not just one day a year, but throughout the year, because they really need our help to go up against some of these big time players, the Walmarts and the Targets and everybody else. I love small business. Most of my clients are small business, and I really, really do love them. One of the other things that comes about at this time of the year is charitable giving. And all of us are digging into our pockets. We're throwing change into the Salvation Army pot. We're sending checks to various charitable organizations that really do need help. And I encourage you to keep on doing that. It is tax deductible as long as it is a qualified charity. And I see so many people giving a lot of money away to non-qualified charities. They're sending money to Bangladesh. I'm sorry, but that is not identified as a charity because it's not qualified under the IRS rules. So though your primary goal is giving to charity might be to help the less fortunate, there's nothing wrong with lowering your taxes in the process, and you can deduct these as long as it's a qualified charity, and it reduces your tax liability. Anytime you donate money to charity, you can take a deduction for that amount, provided you retain a receipt. And your tax savings will be a function of the amount you give, coupled with your effective tax rate. In other words, if you donate $500 and your effective tax rate is 30%, you'll shave off $150 off your tax bill. But the allowance, however, only applies to qualified charities. So let's take just a few minutes and talk about what that means. So a qualified charity is one that's recognized by the IRS as tax exempt. Common examples of qualified charities include educational nonprofits, healthcare nonprofits, religious institutions, volunteer emergency and fire squads. If you're not sure whether an organization you're looking to donate to counts as a qualified charity, ask. And the IRS has a website out there that lists all of the qualified charities out there. If you go to irs.gov, you should also be aware that certain donations, though generous in their own right, don't count as tax deductible. These includes gifts to sports teams, school clubs, politicians, individuals in need. I had one client come in and he had given a lot of money to this last political campaign. He says, "Can I deduct that?" And I'm telling you, it was a big sum of money. I said, "Sorry, I can't let you deduct that." Well, not me, but the IRS will not let you deduct that because it is a political situation. So you cannot do that. So the last one we talked about is individuals in need. Okay, that last one is a little tricky. Say you hear about a local child who was injured in the in the car accident, let's say, or something's happened with their home. If you donate to a neighborhood effort to aid in their recovery, though giving that family money is an extremely kind gesture on your part, and I encourage you to do it because they may be in true need, you can't take a deduction for it since the child family doesn't count as a registered charity under the IRS rules. If you hear me snapping my fingers, it's because my dogs are in my office here rolling around on the floor playing with each other and growling. So I have to snap my fingers to tell them, hey, I'm doing a podcast. Get out of my office. But sometimes they don't listen. So let's continue on with the charitable discussion, okay? So you'll need to itemize to deduct charitable contributions. You need to itemize deductions if you do charitable contributions. Now, this may change, and you may not be able to deduct any of this under the new congressional and Senate tax bills that are going through. But under the current tax law, that's all I know at the moment because nothing's been passed. So I can just advise you on current tax code. So we just learned that the money you give to qualified charities can be deducted on your tax return. But that's only if you itemize deductions. In general, the majority of people who file tax returns don't itemize, but claim the standard deduction, which for the current year is $6,350 for single taxpayers and $12,700 for married taxpayers filing jointly. Does it make sense to itemize if you give a lot to charity? It depends on the extent of your generosity and the other deductible expenses that you have on your itemized deductions. If you pay a lot of mortgage interest and high property taxes, for example, then under the current system, and we're talking about the current system because we don't know what Congress is going to do under tax reform, you'll often do better itemizing over taking the standard deduction. But if your charitable donations are the only items you're able to deduct, then you'll probably be better off sticking to the standard deduction. This isn't to say that you shouldn't continue being charitable. Keep on giving, because remember, we give out of our heart, not just because it's a tax deduction. Just know that you may not get a tax break for it, even though that you're taking the standard deduction. Okay? But I encourage you, continue to donate because it comes from the heart and not from the tax return. So you can deduct contributions even if you get something in return. It's often the case that in exchange for the money you donate, you receive something back from the organization in question. For example, you might donate $1,000 and receive a ticket to a catered dinner or gala. If that's the case, you can still take a deduction for that donation, but not the full amount. Rather, you need to determine the fair market value of what you received in exchange for your donation and then subtract it from the total amount you gave. Now, I know a lot of you are taking the full amount, but you're doing it wrong because you need to take the amount of the fair market value of what you received back. So let's talk about an easy example. Let's say that in exchange for a $500 donation, you receive a pair of tickets to a local theater production worth $50. In that case, you simply subtract $50 from your total donation and write off the remaining $450. You don't take the full deduction. You have to take what the fair market value of those tickets were and then subtract it. You subtract it from the amount that you donated. So you can deduct non-cash donations as well. Just as you're allowed to deduct cash deductions, you also can take the deduction when you donate goods to a qualified charity. And that could be whether it's clothing, toys, or furniture, or any other item. To take that deduction, however, Excuse me, it's cold here. It's 37 degrees this morning, and I'm recording this at 10 o'clock in the morning, so it's cold. It's affecting my voice. So let's get back to this. So to take that deduction, however, you need an itemized receipt documenting what exactly you gave away. Furthermore, you can only deduct the fair market value of those items, which is the amount that go for in the current condition. If you're trying to sell it in the current condition, like if you donated your car, you'd have to take the blue book value of that. Imagine you bought a table 5 years ago for $800 and you no longer need it, okay? If that table has since acquired its share of drugs and of dings and scratches and everything else, it may only be worth $200 at that point, in which case you take $200 deduction, not the $800 deduction. So figuring out the fair market value can be very tricky, but it's critical to get it right. If you're audited and the IRS determines that you took too high a deduction for goods you gave away, you could wind up getting penalized. You can use this guide to get a basic sense of how common household items are valued. If you're giving away something substantial like a car, you may want to consult a tax professional in the Kelly's Blue Book or something else. If the holidays are inspiring you to give more, there could be a nice tax break waiting for you in return for your generosity. No matter what sort of giving you do this season, be sure to keep accurate records so that you are able and you are eligible for a tax deduction. So this is the biggest thing, is that you need to document some more. Whatever you donate, make sure you keep that receipt. I'm telling you, a lot of my clients come to me and they say, well, I donated this place and I donated that place. And my first response is, do you have a receipt? And a lot of times they'll hem and haw around and say, oh, yeah, I do. But then they get audited and they have no receipts. They have nothing. So everything is disallowed. So I encourage you, whatever you are giving away, whatever you're doing, how much money you're giving, make sure it's a qualified charitable organization. And make sure that you've kept the receipt for whatever you have done. I encourage you to keep giving because it's such a great American story. I think we're probably the only country that gives so much. We are always giving. It's always in our heart because as Americans, we give to those that need it. When another country has problems, if they have a disaster, we as Americans are always there to give. I remember when they had these great disasters in the Philippines and mudslides and people lost their houses and their clothing and everything. Boxes and boxes of clothing and supplies and everything went from personal individuals. Even though they could not take the deduction, they sent it anyway because it was part of their thought process as Americans, is that we always give to those who need it the most. So keep on giving. That's what Christmas is all about. Not only giving to our families, but to those that are in need. When I was a young kid, my mom and dad were members of this church that every single Thanksgiving, well, let's go back a little bit more. Every Halloween, instead of going trick-or-treating, we went door to door collecting canned goods for those that needed food on Thanksgiving. Then we put them into sacks and they were distributed to those families in our community that needed help, that needed a meal. And we did the same thing at Christmas. We started collecting goods for them. We would literally go door to door singing Christmas carols as we gathered money to help the needy during the Christmas time. So it's built into our blood that we're taught how to give. Now, those of you out there who have not sat down with your children and said, okay, listen, we need to come up with a plan on how we can give back to those that need it during this Christmas holiday. Do it. Sit down with your kids and get involved in your communities. Don't send your money overseas. There are people within your neighborhood, within your communities that need help. Think of them. Focus on them. Dig into your pockets. Develop a campaign so that you can give money to these individuals, even though you're not getting a tax deduction for it. But if you want a tax deduction, then you go to a qualified charity, and we call it a 501c, and make sure that they are qualified. You can go to the irs.gov, and they have a whole list of people, of organizations out there that qualify as a charity. But still, get involved in your communities. Give from your heart and not from your tax return. That's the best kind of giving that you can give. When you can give to someone in your community that really needs help, that's down and out, that is the best thing ever, it's the best feeling ever, and it's the best blessing that you can ever have. I read this story the other day about this individual who saw all these people in a city in downtown that were homeless. So he went to McDonald's and he bought over 100 hamburgers. Then he went to the store and he bought 100 waters, plastic water bottles. Then he went downtown and he literally gave the hamburger and the water away to 100 homeless people. Now listen, 100 hamburgers out of McDonald's does not cost very much. But it means so much for those individuals that don't have anything to eat. They have to struggle every single day. So we need to get involved in our communities because there are so many people around us that we do not hear about every single day that really need our help. I love Christmas because it's that time of giving. Giving of money, giving of time, giving of prayers, giving of ourselves to other people. That's what Christmas is really all about. Remember, today is Small Business Saturday. Go out and support your small business. This is Michael Lodge for the WBT.
This is brought to you by Lodge & Co., a business and tax advisory firm where your success is our goal. Call us today toll-free at 888-681-1518 or visit us at www.lodge-co.com and learn more about what we can do for you. Lodge & Co., your source for sound business and tax services.
Thank you for listening to the WBT with Michael Lodge. Join us again tomorrow as we explore more about business and taxes. Follow us on iHeartRadio and go to our podcast website at www.wbtpod.com and listen to all of our podcasts and read our blogs.